John 8 verse 12. Again Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. These words, spoken by Jesus in the midst of a deeply symbolic and spiritually charged moment, resonate across centuries with a clarity and depth that continue to illuminate the hearts of those who hear them. In declaring, I am the light of the world, Jesus does more than offer a comforting metaphor. He reveals his identity, his mission, and the transformative reality of what it means to follow him. Light, in Scripture, is one of the most powerful and recurring images used to describe God's presence, truth, and holiness. From the opening words of Genesis, where God speaks light into existence, to the final vision of Revelation, where God's glory replaces the need for sun or lamp, light represents life, clarity, and divine revelation. In contrast, darkness symbolizes confusion, sin, separation, and death. When Jesus stands before the people and proclaims himself as the light, he is not merely offering guidance. He is claiming to be the very source of truth and life, the one through whom all darkness is overcome. The setting of this declaration deepens its meaning. Jesus speaks these words in the temple courts, likely during or shortly after the Feast of Tabernacles, a festival rich with imagery of light. During this celebration, large lamps were lit in the temple, illuminating the city and reminding the people of God's guidance through the wilderness as a pillar of fire. Against this backdrop, Jesus' statement would have been both familiar and startling. The people understood the symbolism of light as God's presence guiding them, but Jesus takes that symbolism and applies it directly to himself. He is not pointing to the light, he is the light. This claim would have challenged their understanding of God and forced them to reconsider who Jesus truly was. It was an invitation, but also a confrontation, a call to step out of spiritual darkness and into the illumination of his truth. When Jesus says, "Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness," he shifts from identity to invitation. The light he offers is not distant or abstract. It is relational and experiential. To follow him is to enter into a journey, a life of movement, growth, and transformation. Following implies trust, obedience, and commitment. It is not enough to admire the light from afar. One must walk in it. This is where the promise becomes deeply personal. Darkness, in this context, is not only external but internal. It represents the confusion of the human heart, the moral uncertainty, the burden of sin, and the longing for meaning that often goes unfulfilled. To walk in darkness is to live without clarity, without direction, without the peace that comes from knowing truth. Jesus offers freedom from that condition. He promises that those who follow him will not remain in that state of uncertainty and confusion. His light reveals what was hidden, clarifies what was uncertain, and guides what was lost. The promise, however, does not suggest that life will become free from challenges or difficulties. Even those who follow the light may pass through dark valleys, seasons of doubt, or moments of pain. But the difference lies in the presence of the light within those moments. The darkness no longer defines the journey. It is illuminated by the presence of Christ. The believer does not walk alone or blindly but walks with the assurance that the light is guiding every step. This guidance is not always loud or obvious. Often, it comes as a quiet conviction, a gentle prompting, a steady sense of peace that directs us even when the path ahead is unclear. The light of Christ does not always reveal the entire journey at once, but it always provides enough clarity for the next step. Jesus continues, "But will have the light of life." This phrase introduces a profound truth. The light he offers is not merely illumination but life itself. It is not just about seeing clearly but about living fully. The light of life speaks to a vitality that goes beyond physical existence. It is spiritual life, a deep, abiding connection with God that brings meaning, purpose, and joy. This life is not dependent on external circumstances but flows from an internal transformation. When we receive the light of Christ, we are not simply informed. We are renewed. Our perspective changes, our desires shift, and our hearts begin to align with God's will. The light becomes a source of life that sustains us, nourishes us, and empowers us to live in a way that reflects God's character. To understand the fullness of this promise, we must consider what it means to follow Jesus in practical terms. Following him involves more than belief. It involves surrender. It requires a willingness to leave behind the patterns of darkness, habits, thoughts, and behaviors that separate us from God's truth. This is not always easy, because darkness can feel familiar and even comfortable. It can offer a false sense of control or security. But the light calls us into something greater. It invites us to trust that what God offers is better than what we leave behind. This trust is the foundation of faith. It is the decision to step into the light even when it exposes our weaknesses, knowing that the light does not condemn but transforms. The light of Christ also reveals truth. In a world filled with conflicting voices and shifting values, truth can feel elusive. People search for meaning in relationships, achievements, or possessions, only to find that these things cannot fully satisfy. Jesus' declaration cuts through that confusion. He does not say he brings light or reflects light. He says he is the light. Truth is not an abstract concept but a person. To follow him is to align ourselves with truth, to anchor our lives in something unchanging. This alignment brings clarity. It helps us discern what is right, what is meaningful, and what is lasting. Without this light, we are left to navigate life on our own, relying on limited understanding. With it, we are guided by divine wisdom. Another aspect of light is its ability to reveal. Darkness conceals, but light exposes. This can be uncomfortable because it brings to the surface things we might prefer to keep hidden. Fears, sins, insecurities. Yet this exposure is not meant to shame us but to heal us. Just as a doctor must see a wound clearly in order to treat it, God's light reveals our condition so that he can restore us. When we walk in the light, we live with honesty and openness before God. We no longer hide behind masks or illusions. Instead, we allow his truth to shape us, to refine us, and to lead us into wholeness. This process of transformation is ongoing. The more we walk in the light, the more we become like Christ. Light also has a communal dimension. When Jesus calls himself the light of the world, he is not only addressing individuals but humanity as a whole. His light is meant to shine through those who follow him, illuminating the lives of others. In Matthew 5 verse 14, he tells his followers, "You are the light of the world." This does not mean we generate light on our own, but that we reflect his light. Our lives become a testimony to his presence. When we live with integrity, compassion, and truth, we reflect the light of Christ to a world that desperately needs it. This is both a privilege and a responsibility. It means that our actions, words, and attitudes matter. They can either obscure the light or reveal it. In a world often marked by darkness, injustice, fear, division, and uncertainty, the message of John 8 verse 12 is profoundly relevant. People long for clarity, for direction, for hope. They search for something that can guide them through the complexities of life. Jesus offers that guidance, not as a temporary solution but as an enduring reality. His light does not fade or diminish. It is constant, reliable, and sufficient for every situation. No matter how deep the darkness may seem, it cannot overcome the light. This truth brings hope. It reminds us that no situation is beyond redemption, no life beyond transformation. Following the light also requires perseverance. There are times when the path may seem difficult, when doubts arise, or when the world's distractions pull us away. In those moments, the call to follow becomes a choice we must renew. It is not a one-time decision but a daily commitment. Each day, we choose whether to walk in the light or to drift back into darkness. This choice shapes our character and our destiny. The more we choose the light, the more natural it becomes. Over time, our lives reflect the qualities of the light: truth, love, and righteousness. The beauty of Jesus' promise is that it is accessible to all. Whoever follows me leaves no one excluded. It does not matter where we come from, what we have done, or how far we feel from God. The invitation stands. The light is available to anyone willing to receive it. This inclusivity reflects the heart of God. a desire that all would come to know him and walk in his truth. It is a reminder that grace is not earned but given. We do not have to achieve a certain level of goodness before we can step into the light. We simply have to follow. As we reflect on John 8 verse 12, we are invited to examine our own lives. Are we walking in the light, or are there areas where darkness still lingers? Are we following Jesus closely, or have we drifted into relying on our own understanding? These questions are not meant to condemn but to guide us back to the source of life. The light of Christ is always available, always inviting, always ready to illuminate our path. It does not force itself upon us but waits for us to respond. When we do, we discover that the light is not only something we walk in but something we carry. It becomes part of who we are, shaping our identity and our purpose. Ultimately, John 8 verse 12 is a declaration of hope. It assures us that darkness is not the final word. No matter how uncertain or challenging life may be, the light of Christ offers clarity, direction, and life. It calls us out of confusion into truth, out of fear into peace, and out of death into life. It is an invitation to live differently, to see differently, to love differently, to hope differently. And as we walk in that light, we become part of a greater story, a story of redemption and restoration that continues to unfold in the world. The light of the world has come, and those who follow him will never walk alone, never walk blindly, and never walk without hope.